Welcome back to Caps Hockey Review. Back with you again. 2 more games to discuss. Couple rumors to break down. I got a fan question to answer. And the injury bug just keeps hanging around for the Caps. We'll break it all down. Caps Hockey Review. Let's go. And off we go. Caps Hockey Review underway yet again. 2 more games down. And I think still the same questions are hanging around for the Caps, and we still don't have any answers for them, unfortunately. Caps get a win. I mean, much needed win, and they played really well against Ottawa, get the OT decision. They come back in the third period. I guess if I want to find something to pick on, they struggled to get anything going offensively through those first 2 periods and actually produce a result on the scoreboard. But I said in the previous video, I will nitpick those things later. What matters is that this team starts winning some games and starts feeling good about themselves again, because they've been on a hell of a slide these last few weeks, and they really, really need to find a way out of it. And it starts with 1 win. So, unfortunately, they followed it with a loss last night against the Vegas Golden Knights on home ice. 1-0 the final score. Robin Lehner gets his first shutout of the season. These close games for the Caps. I mean, they're not getting blown out on a consistent basis. And for the most part, these losses are, by 1 or 2 goals. And unfortunately, that's how you're going to have to win in the playoffs in most cases. These 1-2 goal games, these tight games, you're going to have to find a way to win these things, because when it gets down to the nitty gritty at the most important time of the year, you're going to have to do it this way. So it's a bummer. I mean, to give credit where credit's due, Vegas is a very good hockey team. They are certainly not my favorite hockey team in the world, but they are a very good hockey team. They still have not had Jack Eichel participate in a game yet. He is skating. Fortunately for the Caps, they won't have to worry about that unless they both make it to the finals again. So what do we have to look at in these games? And I want to try to take positives away here. In the Ottawa game, Alex Ovechkin continuing to score. So he's finding his touch again. He kind of went quiet there for about a week or 2, but he's heating back up again. He's, doing Ovi things, and Evgeny Kuznetsov's right there with him. Nicholas Backstrom, little stutter there by me. Nicholas Backstrom is heating up as well. Tom Wilson's still doing Wilson things. That's a very encouraging sign. If all of these guys are rolling for the Caps and they all find that groove again, this is going to be a really dangerous hockey team, and they're going to find a lot of success. Also, getting John Carlson and Dmitry Orlov back really helped as well. Getting both of those guys back, getting John Carlson back for the Ottawa game, and then getting Orlov back as well for the Vegas game. So some pieces coming back together here. That game against Vegas, that was, I think, maybe we expected more goals to be scored by both teams. Both teams obviously can put the puck in the net really well. Surprising. The goalies really stole the show in this thing. Robin Lehner, of course, gets the shutout, gets the better of Vitek Vanacek in this one, but not without sacrifice. He sacrificed a mask in this one. If you haven't seen it yet, there's a picture circling around on Twitter. An Ovechkin slap shot, I believe, is a one-timer, caught Leonard right in the mask, in the cage portion of his mask, and dented it. Dented it all the way into Leonard's cheek. After the game, he's quoted as saying it's probably the scariest hit he's ever taken in the head or the face. So we all know it. We've known it for a long time. Ovi has a heck of a shot, and Robin Leonard got up close and personal with one there. So the Caps, I mean, that Vegas game in particular, I felt like there were some bad bounces for him. That late penalty call on Ovi for the too many men on the ice, I think, was ticky-tacky at best. It was, real close to being a good play. So I don't necessarily agree with the call, but it is what it is. We can't change it. They had their chances, and that's really the positive part here, and that's what I'm going to try to take away from this. They had their chances in this game. It's just a matter of converting, and Robin Leonard played a heck of a game. I would say more credit to him than discredit for the Caps, because they had some great opportunities in this game, and Leonard really found a way to stifle him. So back to the drawing board we go. One more win, one more loss. The play kind of continues. The play is getting better. The results are still give me that gross feeling a little bit. So what else do we have to talk about? I have kind of blown through both of these games really quickly. Well, I've got, unfortunately, more injury news to share. Nick Jensen, Capitals defenseman, has been added to injured reserve with an upper body injury. He will miss at least the next 2 games. Injury bug keeps hanging. Oshie's still out. Mantha, of course, is still out. Now Jensen's out. I mean, I don't think at any point in this season this team has had, they haven't had a full lineup, and I think in most cases they've been missing, 2 or 3, even 4 regular guys at a time. So this is starting to become a little bit ridiculous. Of course, it's really out of anybody's control, but it's just, wow, the Caps have absolutely had no luck with injuries this season. But no excuses. No excuses. They found ways to win early in the season while they were missing key pieces, and they're going to have to continue to do it. One bright spot maybe for the Caps, and I've talked negatively about this all season, but the more these injuries continue and the more the Caps continue to lose games and be inconsistent and haven't been able to really string a few together, a trade is starting to seem a lot more likely for this team. So, the rumor, as you can see on the ticker, the Caps are in the market, reportedly, for a veteran goaltender and a top 6 forward. I'm going to start with the forward first. I've talked goalies fairly recently, and not really a lot has changed there, but forwards. This is interesting, okay? They were rumored to be in on Evander Kane. Look, I despise that idea. I despise the move if they make it. I think it would be the worst decision Brian McClellan will have made as Caps GM. Evander Kane. Everybody, his issues off the ice over the summer and previous seasons and this season have been very well documented. I'm not going to dive into those and dig those up. I will say, I will give my opinion on this. Evander Kane has to get his life in order outside of hockey and make a commitment to an organization, to his teammates, and to hockey. I mean, that's the thing. And hockey just does not seem to be a priority for him right now. And he's taking an opportunity, I feel, that so many people never get and so many people work so hard for and never make it to the NHL. And I feel like he's taken that for granted. He's, finding things like gambling and other activities off the ice more important than his NHL career. And in my opinion, it has no place in the NHL, and I don't think he belongs in the NHL until he sorts all these issues out. So I don't like this. I've heard chatter. The Oilers, I know we're looking into it, but a deal hasn't happened yet. Obviously, a deal on the Caps front hasn't happened yet. I'm really hoping it doesn't. This, I think, would be an absolute flop of a decision. Hasn't really played a lot this season. He's been suspended. He was suspended for a lot of the early part of the season for the fake vaccine card. He's been not playing at all since his contract was terminated by the San Jose Sharks a couple weeks ago. So I just don't think it's a good move. There's plenty of other options, stronger options out there for the Caps to pursue if they feel so inclined. So now the question on everybody's mind. Well, if they're not going to get Evander Kane, who else is out there? Well, staying in the Sharks organization, because this Sharks experiment and all the big contracts they doled out a couple years ago have proven just to be absolute flops. This team is absolutely going to have to hit the rebuild, and they've got a lot of big contracts to unload. Now, am I saying the Caps go out and take one of these big contracts? No. The Caps do not have cap space. The cap in capitals does not stand for cap space. I'll tell you that now. So there isn't going to be any Erik Karlsson to the Capitals. There isn't going to be any Logan Couture to the Capitals. No Brent Burns to the Capitals. We ain't seen any of that. But we do have a couple targets. One would be Thomas Hertl. He is on the last year of his deal. He's making roughly the same as an Anthony Mantha. Now, why does this matter? Anthony Mantha, as long as he remains on long-term injured reserve, his cap hit does not count. So the Caps could trade a pick or some other piece that's not directly linked to their regular NHL roster right now in exchange for Thomas Hertl without getting over the salary cap. That is the key here. I think Hertl would be a great option. He's another center ice. He's another center. He can win a faceoff. We know how the Caps struggle there, and he's really, really talented offensively. He's responsible defensively, but I think his offensive punch, I think that's why the Caps are in the market for a top six forward. They have enough guys who play responsibly in the D zone. They need somebody who can put the puck in the net. Okay? We haven't seen Oshie much this season. Obviously, we haven't seen Mantha. Those are two huge guys that this team looks at to provide that secondary scoring, that second wave after the Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Backstrom, Wilson shenanigans. So I think Hertl's a great option. Will it happen? Who knows? I mean, he loves San Jose. He'd like to stay there, but he's also said he wants to contend for a cup. That does not look like it's going to happen in San Jose anytime in the near future. So we could see him available. Also from the Sharks, Timo Meyer has really impressed these last few seasons, again, for his offensive prowess. I think he also would be a good option. I mean, less of a cap hit, which is always nice. They both only have, I know Hertl only has 1 year left on the deal. I believe Meyer does as well. So you'd be looking at, a possible rental situation, or you could re-sign, but then you'd have to trade somebody else to make the money work, which is doable in the summer. That's not really a problem. So those two are an option, and a third. I'll stick to three with this because I don't want to get too drug out on all this. The third, and potentially most exciting, but also I think the most unrealistic, would be Alex Dubrinkett from the Chicago Blackhawks. Anybody who does not know, I think you'd be pretty hard-pressed not to know who Dubrinkett is by now. He has been the Robin to Patrick Kane's Batman ever since Artemi Panarin left. He is an extremely talented winger. Great speed, great hands, great shot. He does all these fantastic things. And again, he is coming to the end of his current contract. The Hawks, they went for kind of a microwave rebuild, a real quick kind of retool on the fly, and it just hasn't worked. That's why Fleury's available. That's why there's speculation Dubrinkett could be available. The thing I like about all of these options, I guess I'll say, all three of these guys, they're all young. They're all in their 20s. They've been around the league enough to understand and, their experience. There's not any youthful, I don't know really the word I'm looking for here. It's not like a situation where you're bringing in a young guy and you have to acclimate him to your team and to the NHL at the same time. It's nothing like that. So I like these options for those reasons. Why do I think some of these could be potentially unrealistic, though? For the Dubrinkett trade. I'll start with the most unlikely here. The cap hit. $6.4 million, which isn't terrible. You would eventually have to trade somebody in that same region of salary. Anthony Mantha, TJ Oshie. I don't think Oshie's a likely candidate, but it's possible. You'd have to trade one of these two in all likelihood to make it work. The nice thing here is Dubrinkett still has another year left on the deal. I misspoke. He does have another year left on his contract after this season, and he's hitting restricted free agency after that. That, of course, will give the Caps better negotiating rights in an effort to re-sign him. I think in all likelihood, if they pull this trade off, they would eventually like to re-sign him. He is a heck of a hockey player, and I hope it does happen. If I had to pick one guy for the Caps to trade for this season, it would be Alex Dubrinkett. Now, Timo Meyer. I like this as well. Like I said, lower cap hit. I misspoke as well on him. I did a little homework here. Timo Meyer has another year left on his deal as well. So a little bit less of a rental for these two. And that's what I like, okay? Deadline moves rarely work. And we've seen this as Caps fans so much. You make this big splash at the deadline. I mean, the Kevin Shattenkirk deal comes to mind. And it just doesn't work out. You pick this guy up. I think the sooner that you can make a trade in the season, the better, because it gives that player that much more time to get acclimated to their new situation, their new surroundings. So I'd like to see a trade sooner than later. And finally, for Thomas Hertl, he is going to hit unrestricted free agency. I like the player, and he's got 1 year. This is the last year of his contract. For those reasons, unless he absolutely loves Washington, views them as a contender for years to come, I don't know if I like the deal for that. I'm not a huge fan of giving up picks, prospects, whatever it might be to rent a player for the playoffs. I mean, if it works out, they win a cup, cool, but it's just such a risky move, and I think there's better options out there as far as term and similar players available that would offer some of the same things. So any three of these guys I think I'd be okay with, depending on the trade and, what's going the other way. We'll have to wait and see on that, of course. But like I said, I'd like to see a deal done sooner than later if it's going to happen. We haven't seen Mantha all season, so he hasn't started skating yet. Oshie's been in and out of the lineup. Adding somebody else to get some more depth for this team would be huge. It'd make a ton of sense as long as you can make it work with the salary cap. The Caps have been in salary cap hell for years now, and every dime counts for this team. So there's always options, sure, but it's not like you can just trade a couple picks for a player and it all works with the money. That's not how this is going to work for the Caps in most cases. Also, they have another need to address, and we'll get to goalies here. The talk on Marc-Andre Fleury is really heated up. And I'm a firm believer in that where there's smoke, there's fire. The Caps have been linked to Fleury, I think, more than just about any other team. So I think it's very possible old GM, BM is looking at making this trade, pulling the trigger on this deal. Also, Fleury is a Chicago Blackhawk. Maybe there's a package deal where we get Fleury and Alex Dubrinkett for. It's gonna take a lot to get both of those guys in one shot. It's probably gonna take something like a Mantha, something maybe a TJ Oshie, or along with picks, prospects, but figuring you don't throw in any current rostered capitals. Couple picks, couple prospects, I'm thinking. So we're doing this again. We're leveraging and we're betting the farm. We're betting the future, and we're risking the future to win right now. So it's going to continue. As much as I talk against it, and as much as I hate to see it sometimes, but this organization and this front office and this management team is going to do whatever they can to keep this Caps team competitive right now for as long as they can. I don't think future is really on anybody's mind right now. I think it's the future for the Caps is the playoffs this year. I don't think they're looking anywhere past that. So they are trying to load this team as much as they can for now. We'll have to deal with it down the road, but if it wins us some cups and it looks like it's the direction they're going to go, for me to sit here and get upset about it, it's just, peeing on my birthday cake. So I say go for it. If you're going to go for it, if you're going to make this your window again and you're going to do everything you can to squeeze as many cups as you can out of this Ovechkin Backstrom era, go for it. But you got to go in full throttle. We can't see any more of these Verana for Mantha type deals. And I have a feeling I'm going to dump on this deal a lot in the near future because it's, maybe it's because he hasn't played much this year and neither has Verana. But the more I sit and think about it, the more I think they traded Jacob Verana for a guy who is basically Jacob Verana, just taller and weighs a little bit more. They basically just had a size upgrade. So I don't know. I'm not going to gush about that now. I'll circle back to that later in future videos, I'm sure. But goalies. I discussed Fleury. He seems, as far as chatter and as far as, rumors that are out there, he seems like the most likely target for the Capitals. Again, it's a rental. I firmly believe, unless they could coax him back on maybe a one-year deal for, maybe league minimum or for, $800,000 or whatever, which I'm sure he'd take. He probably didn't need the money at this point, but I think the best we could hope for Marc-Andre Fleury is that he gets the Caps to the Stanley Cup this year, if they do trade for him. I think expecting him to re-sign after that might be a bit unrealistic. We'd have to wait and see. So I don't love the idea of this deal. I firmly believe Marc-Andre Fleury is still a fantastic goaltender at the NHL level, and I think wherever he ends up, come trade deadline or even before, whatever contender this guy ends up with, they're getting a heck of a goalie. The question just is, did we just give up too much for basically what is quite possibly a rental? And you look around at other teams who are potential contenders at this point for a Stanley Cup. Okay, Colorado Avalanche. They have Darcy Kemper. Could they benefit from a Marc-Andre Fleury? Very possibly. In the East, you look at, obviously Tampa has Vasilevsky. Florida has Sergei Bobrovsky, who's kind of refound himself, so I don't think they're really looking. Hurricanes have Freddie Anderson. The Rangers have Igor Shesterkin. I don't think there's too many contenders out there that are looking for a goalie that Fleury would fit the mold. One team in particular, aside from the Caps, that I think it would fit would be the Pittsburgh Penguins. It would make a lot of sense. Fleury going back to his old stomping grounds, maybe for one more go, one more kick at the can, whatever you want to say, maybe for one more cup for the Penguins. It's possible. Tristan Jarry has been very good at times this season, and he's also been struggling. So Fleury to the Penguins makes a lot of sense. Somebody like the Minnesota Wild could possibly benefit from Marc-Andre Fleury. There's a couple teams out there that are in a position to contend, but maybe could use some help in the net. So the Caps are not the only team vying for Fleury's services. If, in fact, they are, it seems like they really are. Also, as I mentioned before, Braden Holtby is also an option, I think, at this point, that could be considered as well. I think he'd be a great option for the Caps. Probably better than Fleury, in my opinion. But I seem to be in the minority on that. And looking at social media, Fleury seems to be the wish for most Caps fans. There are those of us who think it's not the right move at the right time, and for a guy who is very possibly going to retire. So enough about goalies. Enough about the masked men. What else could I possibly have to discuss with you fine folks today? Before I get to the fan question, I appreciate your submission. I'll get there in just a sec. Nick Jensen on the IR. Touched on it briefly, but he's had a great year for the Caps. And to lose him now, it really is a bummer. He's been really kind of part of the shutdown pair for the Caps, but he's also really found some offensive traction, and he's having a really good season offensively. So to see him go down now really, really sucks, and hopefully he's not out very long. Now, to get to our fan question. The very first one here on Caps Hockey Review. It has nothing to do with the Capitals, which I'm fine with. Will the New York Rangers be competitive in the NHL playoffs? Kind of a loaded question. I mean, the short answer, yes. The bigger, more complex, difficult answer, I think we could talk about to what degree they'll have success. I mean, when you look at how they stack up against potential opponents. Okay, you look at other teams coming out of the East, like the Lightning, the Panthers, the Hurricanes, Capitals, Maple Leafs, Bruins. The Rangers look really good on paper. This roster is definitely, they've got some help from some younger guys. It's probably not, as you look at rosters on paper, they have some big names and some guys who've really kind of refound themselves this year. But moving past that, how they stack up against teams that have playoff experience, that's going to be the question. Okay, Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad, Chris Kreider have led this team offensively, and they've done it beautifully. They're each averaging over a point per game this season. Ryan Strome is also doing great, just under a point a game. On the back end, defensively, you also have Adam Fox, Norris Trophy candidate, leading the team in total points. You have, obviously, Jacob Trouba back there as well. Not putting in as many points, but he's such a solid defenseman. This team is deep. I mean, when you look at, okay, they're skilled offensively, they're skilled defensively, and they have probably one of the best goalie tandems in the NHL. Igor Shesterkin has lived up to this new contract so far. He's done fantastic. And I think if the Rangers are going to make any kind of a push in the playoffs, it's going to be on him. And I'll tell you why. I said, the forwards are incredibly skilled. They have guys, Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad, Artemi Panarin, Ryan Strome doing really good things. My only concern, you look at their secondary scoring, and you look at the two guys that it should be coming from, the young guys, Capo Caco and Alexi Lafreniere. Your two prized draft picks. Caco was taken second overall, and Lafreniere was taken first overall. These two, I think, have to be a bigger presence scoring-wise on this team if they're going to have a long run in the playoffs. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Teams are going to find a way. They're going to put their best defensive forwards and their best defensive pair up against this Panarin-Zibanejad line, and they're going to have guys out there to try to frustrate Chris Kreider as well. So they're going to need these two guys, along with probably Ryan Strome, to really be that second wave of scoring for the New York Rangers. As far as competitiveness, they stack up really well. As far as how far do I think they'll make it into the playoffs, the only other concern I have for this team is playoff experience, because they don't have a lot of it. Jacob Trouba has some experience. Artemi Panarin has some experience. Mika Zibanejad has very little. And Chris Kreider probably has the most. You have four guys who kind of have some experience, but not a lot, and one guy who has quite a bit. You also have Barclay Goodrow, who won back-to-back cups with the Lightning. But you're young guys. I mean, we saw what Montreal did last year with very little playoff experience. I would not say that experience is the end-all, be-all for how far you go in the playoffs, because Montreal obviously went very far with very little experience previously in the playoffs. So for the Rangers, I think they can make a push. If you want me to make a prediction, I'm going to say they get knocked out in the second round. I think they make a good push through the first, but they're going to run into some trouble in the second round. I mean, I would imagine by that point, your options for opponents would be the Hurricanes, the Lightning, possibly the Maple Leafs, but the Maple Leafs haven't won a playoff series since 2004, so probably don't need to worry about those guys so much. But your potential opponents, I mean, Tampa Bay obviously has a ton of depth and skill that matches the Rangers. They have more experience, and also the Hurricanes. Same thing. Tons of skill, tons of speed, matching the Rangers, and also more experience. As far as potential first round opponents and who I think they could beat, they may beat my Capitals first round. I think if it came down right now in the playoffs, if the regular season ended the end of this week, it's very possible we could see a Rangers-Caps first-round matchup. I don't like the Caps odds against the Rangers. I don't like the Penguins odds against the Rangers. I think the Rangers are going to be a really dangerous team, and they've quietly gone about their business. They had a slow start to the season, but they've quietly gone about their business. They've kind of swam under the radar. Everybody's talking about Tampa. Everybody's talking about Florida. Everybody's talking about Carolina, Colorado. The Rangers are a very, very good hockey team, and maybe not as many expectations yet. I mean, they're still kind of in this rebuild phase a little bit. They've got a lot of young players, and they've got a lot of years ahead of them. I mean, the oldest guy on their team is Chris Kreider at 34, 35. The next oldest is Panarin at 30 and Zibanejad at 30. Everybody after that is like 25, anywhere from 22, 21, 22 to 27. That was a lot of numbers there. That was weird. But you have a really young team. So I think they're going to make a push in the playoffs. I think they're going to knock somebody out early, but I think they're going to get knocked out second round. Hopefully that was a sufficient answer. I hope it was. Anybody else? Questions? Leave them in the comments. Hit like, hit subscribe. Help me out. I want to answer as many questions as I can and give my take on as many things as possible. If you have a question, if you disagree with something I say, do you think Fleury is a great option for the Caps? Do you think they don't need a top six forward? Whatever it might be, let me know. Ask a question below. I'll address it in the next video. Getting back to the Caps, thank you for your fan submission. I won't say your name just in case you don't want me to say it on here, but thank you. I know who it is. I appreciate you. Back to the Caps for a quick wrap up here. Looking for consistency. That's been the theme, and it's going to continue to be the theme until they can prove it. So we're looking for 2 wins. We're got the Sharks coming up on Wednesday. I haven't looked ahead to that second game yet, but we're taking it one game at a time at this point. I will be back after that second one, but right now, looking ahead to the Sharks. Possibly, it's a great chance. You got some of these potential trade targets in the building. Get a good look at them. Maybe we could see a new Capital by the time I am with you again. Hoping for some consistency. Hoping for 2 wins. Vitek Vanacek is rolling in the net right now. I would expect to see him in one of these next 2 games, if not both. And looking for wins. That's the theme for me. That's, I'm sure, the theme for the Caps. Looking for wins and looking for a way to string a few together. So, until next time, go Caps. Leave a like, leave a comment, hit subscribe. Until next time, that is all, folks. Go Caps.